It's a great day at the Academy of Scholars. Welcome to another episode of Scholarly Speaking Live with Dr. Stacy Lambert-Johnson, the Director of Student Success at the Academy of Scholars. I am Benny Crane Jr., the Assistant Director of Student Success. Today's topic will discuss talking to your children about the news.
Thank you for joining us for today's live session. No matter where you're joining us from, whether you're at work or at home, we pray that you're having a great AOS day and hope that you can visit us here on campus someday soon. So last week we talked about teaching your child how to advocate for themselves. This week we're discussing how to talk to your child about the news. But before we get started, Benny, where can our viewers watch today's live session once it's over?
Everything from this show ends up on our website, academyofscholars.com, including both the audio and video versions. Now, if you prefer watching us each week, you can find the video version on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you're looking for something entertaining to listen to on your drive to work every day, you can download the audio version anywhere you download your favorite podcast. Now, shout out to all those people who are joining us live today. And to those of you who follow us on our social media platforms, we appreciate you joining us. Now, do us a favor. Tell your friends we're on. All you have to do is hit that share button right there, comment, and tell us about conversations with your children about the news. Do they ever ask you questions you're not quite sure how to answer? And if so, how do you handle it? Tell us. We want to know.
So, Benny, unless you've been living under a rock in the past few weeks, there's a lot that's been going on in the news.
Yes.
From Russia's invasion of the Ukraine to the Oscar fiasco involving Will Smith and Chris Rock. I remember when Russia first invaded the Ukraine weeks ago. I called my grandson just to say hi, and the first thing he blurted out to me was, "We're about to have World War III." Super upset. I was able to calm him down and try to reassure him that everything was going to be okay.
Oh, good Nana.
But it got me thinking about today's topic. Parents today have a lot that they have to shield their children from.
Yes.
It's not like the olden days, right? When the only thing that parents had as far as competition for information dissemination was the TV and peers in school. Now parents have to compete with Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Google, and generally the World Wide Web.
I know, Stacy. I thank God for the technological advances that have come along in our lifetime. Cell phones, tablets, the internet, social media, streaming, it's like they've saved our lives. And they've made our lives better.
Right.
It's crazy to think about how people used to leave the house in the morning and the next time you talk to them is when they came back at night. If someone moved away, they just were out of our lives forever. They were basically just gone. Right. Now we're connected like never before. And it seems like to everybody and everything. We have so much information right at our fingertips. So children don't have to rely on adults for information like we had to when we were kids.
Right.
I always say children today don't have to rely on adults for information, but they do need us for interpretation.
Say that again. That's
Children today do not need us for information, they need us for interpretation.
Remember that.
You remember that.
Now, of course, news isn't always negative, and some news can be uplifting and motivating for children, especially when it deals with children your kids' own age doing spectacular things to make a difference in the world. Yeah. But my experience, and yes, I did say my experience because I watch the news religiously 5:30 every morning, is that for every one positive story, there are 5 negative stories being shared on the news. So parents, what can we do? We can't shield our children from the world. That's not a reality.
Right.
So we have to think of ways that we can allow the exposure while at the same time protecting their psyche.
Yes, and researching this topic was great for me, Stacy, because I'm not a news watcher. I like to read the news. Now, I don't read the newspaper, but CNN.com, all those things. But my wife and especially my mother-in-law, who lives with us, are news watchers. I remember when the pandemic first hit, everyone was so afraid of what was happening at one point. It seemed like the television stayed on CNN. After a while, I just had to turn it away because I didn't want my kids to be afraid afraid about what was going to happen. So I was interested in finding out, is just turning the channel enough? And the reality is, it's not.
It's not in this day and age. First, parents should talk to their children to find out what they already know. Ask questions to see if they've heard or seen anything about a current event. If your child is school-aged, it's inevitable that they heard something at school or on social media. Younger children, pre-K, kindergarten, and some first graders may not grasp the difference between fact and fantasy, so they may not connect that what they're seeing or hearing is actually real. However, older children, second grade and up, are aware that the news is real. Well, unless it's fake.
Right.
So gauge a conversation with your child to see if they have the facts right. If your child doesn't appear to be interested in a conversation about the event, don't push it. Leave it alone until your child initiates a conversation about the event.
As Stacy suggested, the older your kids are, the more likely they're going to find out about certain things. Let's take the Will Smith, Chris Rock situation, for example. It happened after my children had fallen asleep on Sunday night. On Monday morning, my son is up at 6. We're out the door by 6:30, and I listened to a podcast on the drive to work while he was asleep. Anything he knew about the situation by Monday night, he would have learned from his classmates and social media. And there was so much conversation surrounding it.
Yeah.
Was Will Smith protecting black womanhood? Whether or not Chris Rock should have retaliated? All these conversations, and with the benefit of our perspective. So to a large extent, helping your children through this requires your having a pulse on what's happening in the world.
That's so true. Now, second, parents should be ready to answer questions honestly and briefly. Don't add unnecessary details or your own opinion about the event. Share only as much as you feel that your child should know, and that really depends on your child's age and maturity. For younger children, you should try to calm any fears and help them feel safe, even for older children. I mean, my grandson was emotional as he shared how the Russian invasion of Ukraine would lead to World War III. After I listened to him express his fears and what they had talked about at school, I had to calm his fears and reassure him that his doom and gloom outlook was unlikely to happen. But first, parents, I had to listen. We need to listen carefully.
Yes.
Fear leads to worry, and worry can lead to anxiety if we do not engage our children in candid conversations, allowing them to ask questions and helping them to cope with their fears. Sometimes the act of listening is enough to calm your child's fears. If your child has a question that you don't know the answer to, it's okay to say that you don't know the answer, but that you'll find out. You could even use age-appropriate websites to spend time together looking for an answer.
Stacy, some parents are just oversharers.
That's true.
And many times they're oversharing because they feel like it's necessary to. And this is tricky, finding the balance between giving your child the information or interpretation they need and sharing too much. Remember, children don't have the emotional maturity and ability to understand things the way adults do. So we really have to be careful on what we share and distinguish between being honest and supportive while also maintaining appropriate boundaries.
That is great advice. Third, parents need to help their children feel in control. Many times watching the news and seeing and hearing all of the negative stories can make us as adults feel helpless. So imagine children. Children should be encouraged to share their fears with you. Sharing their fears can help children feel somewhat in control, and after they share their fears, teach your child to be prepared, not panicked. If, for example, the news is about a natural disaster, as a family, make a plan addressing what to do to be safe. If the news story is about a virus that's spreading, well, that could never happen.
Never.
Talk to your child about ways that you and your family can protect yourselves. If the news story is about a tragic event in another state or another part of the world, talk to your child about what your family can do to help. Allowing your child to talk about what they can do to help others and executing a plan to actually help gives them a sense of control. I had a 5th grade scholar the other day say to me, "You know what, Dr. Johnson? I decided that since children in the Ukraine don't have food to eat like we do, I'm not going to waste food anymore." I mean, it came out of nowhere,
Wow.
Completely unsolicited. And the other scholars were like, "What?" But this scholar was very sincere.
Oh, that is amazing. And you talked about being prepared and not panicked.
That's
You
right.
need to coin that. Be prepared, not
panicked.
Ooh, Yes. Now, I look at this, the advice Stacy is giving, as giving your child reassurance. Ultimately, your children just want to know that everything's going to be all right. And we're not saying that you should be dishonest with your children, but if your reaction to the news is, oh Lord, we all about to die, how do you expect your children to react? Children are thermometers, and we have to be their thermostats. Thermometers only tell us the temperature, but thermostats set the temperature. We have to set the right temperature for our children in order for them to display the right temperature.
That's so true. Now, for parents, as much as possible, limit exposure to the news. Depending on your child's age and maturity, the news can be traumatic. Limiting what they watch and how much of it they watch is important, especially when the topics are difficult. And that includes how much you talk about what's in the news in front of your kids. Some people keep the news streaming all day long in the background. I remember, like you mentioned, when we all had to go home at the start of the COVID pandemic in March of 2020, the only thing that was on TV all day, every day, was news about COVID-19.
Yes.
I was overwhelmed, so I can't imagine how our littlest ones felt. I had to turn the news off and stop talking about it. As parents, we'll sometimes have to do the same thing when it comes to negative news to secure the sanctity of our homes for the sake of our children.
Yes. Last week, I talked about how when we were kids, Stacy, we couldn't be in the same room with adults while they were talking. Even though we laugh about this being old school thinking, what they knew was they would likely say some things that children shouldn't hear.
That's
They
right.
were monitoring what conversations we were exposed to. It was parental controls,
There you
right?
go.
In the same way, we have to anticipate that the news is going to talk about something that our young children are not ready to be exposed to, and act accordingly.
Now, finally, parents, check in and keep the conversation going. Help your child think through the stories that they hear, the positive and negative ones. Ask questions like, what do you think about this? How does it make you feel? Why do you think these things are happening? Encourage conversation about non-news topics as well. With teens, they will more than likely engage the news independent of you. So talking to them will give you greater insight into their developing viewpoints as it relates to politics, justice, and morality. And watch for signs of stress from your child. If there are drastic changes in your child's behavior, such as not eating, not sleeping, isolating, biting their nails, pulling their hair, or other signs of distress, call your child's doctor or a behavioral health care professional. They can help your child manage their anxiety and learn how to be able to cope. Well, what do you think? How do you talk to your child about the news? How do you help your child make sense of what they see and hear? Did you learn something new from today's episode? Comment and let us know your thoughts on today's topic.
Yes, please comment. And if you're looking for more information to help you talk to your children about the news and current events, go to our website at academyofscholars.com/scholarly speaking resources. In the meantime, we suggest you check out the book, The Importance of Being Little, What Young Children Really Need from Grown-Ups by Erica Christakis. Christakis' book offers real-life situations to real-life issues. Through exploration of children's use of language, their artistic expressions, and the way their imaginations grow, this book gives parents hope for how they can help raise happy children despite the chaos of the world around us. And remember, no matter where you live in the world, you can give your child access to an exceptional Christian affordable education with the Academy of Scholars Premier Online Learning. Not only does the Academy of Scholars give your child the opportunity to engage in school at their own pace, but we also provide a comprehensive curriculum with classes like coding and computer science that will have your child excited about school each day. The Academy of Scholars Premier Online Learning is the online school you've been looking for.
I hope you enjoyed today's live session. To learn more about our amazing school, the Academy of Scholars, please go to our website at academyofscholars.com. Join us next time, not next week because we will be on Easter break, as we continue our live discussions. Next time, we'll be talking about how to raise a leader and not a follower.
Oh, that would be great.
Until next time, I am Dr. Stacy Lambert-Johnson,
And I'm Benny Crane Jr.
saying
Goodbye
goodbye and be blessed.
The Academy of Scholars. Exceptional, Christian, affordable.